Hi there, I'm Becky Hammond, founder and strengths maven over at Isogo and isogostrong.com, where we know that relationships are hard. So let's make them easier with your strengths. And welcome to the Isogo TV video and audio podcast. Here on Isogo TV, we are fueling family connection and work energy by focusing in on your strengths instead of fixating on your weakness. Today, you are joining us for episode 80, which is the first in our season 4 interview series all about using strengths. Here, leaders, coaches, parents, spouses, regular people are talking about what happens in their lives when they truly begin using and harnessing the strongest things about them in their work or their marriages or their parenting and beyond. Today's guest is Carrie Skowronski. Carrie has more than 20 years experience in corporate human resources and management development, and she founded a company called Leadology. And how cool is that name? I love that, Carrie. Where she excels at helping people step into their strengths, cultivate their talents, so they can become inspirational leaders who also really achieve goals and overcome challenges with confidence. Today, though, Carrie opens up a fully different side of her life as she shares her personal journey and victory over cancer. And she gives us inspiring insight into how her strengths truly saved her life. So let's dive into this conversation with Carrie. All right. Hello, Carrie. How are you?
Becky, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad that we are sitting down together today. The only thing that would make this better is if we were like face to face in that little Brooklyn apartment of yours with
I know.
tea.
Yeah, exactly. Tea, coffee, or in the afternoon we can have wine. Do you love I said afternoon and not evening?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what is that 2 p.m. that we get? Well, this is Friday for us, so actually anytime is fine, right?
Summer Friday.
You and I got the chance to become acquainted when our family lived in New York, and that's where you call home. And I feel like has been a privilege and an honor to be able to get into your life and to see how your mind works. And you've certainly shared some of your brilliance with me in terms of your facilitation and just your lens on the world. And we're going to be, of course, sharing more about that. But I have been encouraged by you, and I'm excited about the chance for other people to get to know who you are and how you breathe and how your life has been impacted through your strengths. So thanks for being willing to sit here.
So sweet. And the feeling is definitely mutual. I'm such a fangirl of yours watching you do all this online stuff. And I don't do any of that for my business, but I learned so much. Even though our lives are very different, I learned so much you're putting out there. But you know what? I lead with individualization. So I opposite attract is such an energizing thing for me in all of my relationships. So
yeah. Here we are. Awesome. Cool. Well, why don't you just let's just get started by sharing a little bit about yourself, like who you are, what's your situation like, what do you do for work, and then we'll go from there.
Oh gosh, who am I?
That's a big question.
Actually, I know I'm in Brooklyn now, but I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. So I do have some of those Midwest hardworking sensibilities. And I moved to New York 20 years ago.
Wow.
And it has definitely been home. I never turned back. My mom always said she blamed herself. The only way she can get me to stop crying in my playpen was to give me one of her Vogue magazines. So that led me to 20 years of a career in retail before I stepped out to start my own business. So I worked in retail. I worked in retail stores and then transitioned into learning and development. At my last company. And really that was my calling. And I stepped out to expand that and to try to be relevant in multiple industries, not just retail, and continue to learn and grow and get certified in things I was passionate about, like strengths, and built my business from there. And I'm in my sixth year. Yeah.
Oh, so awesome. Okay, you have to tell all of us what were some of the retail places that you work for, because I think that some of them are just so cool.
I did 10 years at the Gap. That was like the college job, right?
That's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I moved with Gap to New York, and then I had a short little fling with J. Crew for a year, and then got recruited we decided to just be friends. And then I got recruited to coach. And so I worked at Coach for 10 years, and that's where I had my international career. Well, both Gap and Coach did some field service training store managers how to run their business in Japan. And that was such a precious experience. Just having that international career, culturally being immersed in the culture every single day. But also I was there at a time when, women were entering their 30s and mid 30s and still not married and having kids and really wanted to focus on their career, and they were so educated. And so to have been a part of that and their career development and potential for 3 years was beyond starting my own business. It was by far one of the most precious experiences, just because I learned so much too about myself.
Wow. That's awesome. I feel like just that one little thing, I could go off and ask you a million questions and so I'm going to refrain, but now I know next time this is what we're talking about. So when you think about some of the things that you've done recently, what's something that you're most proud of?
Gosh, recently something I'm most proud of. Well, I definitely, there's a couple of things. I recently kind of hit a tipping point with my business where things started to expand, and I have this amazing support of women. We're called The Hive. I think
that's right. Yes. Love those ladies. Yes.
We're a network of coaches and facilitators, consultants here in New York. And I recently went on a 2-week Sicilian road trip. And to keep things going with my business, one of my clients had a big learning event that was going on for 3 days. And I had 4 amazing women from The Hive able to step in with my content and get in there and deliver to this amazing, really important client. And so I had not done that before. And to me, I was like, okay, this is it. If you really want to grow, right. And you've got to start doing stuff like this. And thank God I had this incredible support of these amazing women who were able to step in and do that. So anyway, and they were there for me last year too, when I had to take a little bit of a leave for my health. And so, I think we think about those things when we start to take the risk of being an independent coach and not working for a company, but you never really think it's going to happen. And it did. And I was very lucky to have that support system. So I guess I'm proud of just having them as a network.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that what you're proud of has really the only thing you have to do with that is that you let go and let them come into your space. You trusted them. You put your guard down. Otherwise your thing that you're most proud of, it has everything to do with how awesome they are. And that says a lot about you.
Thank you. But yeah, they're incredible. They're incredible. And to have that level of trust, and that they trusted me too, right? That I wasn't going to take advantage of them, or that, that they trusted that they were going to be set up for success. And so it was definitely mutual, but it's an incredible partnership.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And I can't wait to see how that grows, because man, you guys are all just firing on all cylinders. Love it.
Some of them at the summit this year, I think. So.
Oh, good. You're bringing everyone along. You got to get to Omaha, people. Well, one fun thing that we've been doing on these interviews is we've been asking a question randomly pulled from this Dare to Dialogue conversation card deck that we created as strengths-oriented fun questions. What?
Are those Isogo branded?
Yeah, we made these. Yeah, we're excited about those. Yeah, they have they have their own little box and everything.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Ask me a question.
Okay, and then we can both answer it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, is this even a thing? Okay. This is randomly selected, so hopefully this works out for you. When did you last sing to yourself? And then when did you last sing to someone else?
Did I last sing to myself? Probably yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. This will give you some idea of how I work. I was teaching a strength session with a client, and while they were doing some reflecting and thinking, I started to play some music and just put on one of my playlists on Spotify, and Sexual Healing came on. And it was that Nick from the movie Chef. Have you? Yeah, it's a good one. I think so. With John Favreau, and he's got like the. And so we just all started like, shaking our shoulders it and like, a little swing, a little. So I was singing to myself. I was singing to.
You were singing. It was both. Yeah.
It's not anything that ever needs to be recorded or heard or seen, but
we did it. You know what? And letting loose like that, it probably just amped the level of like going the depth in the room, and people are willing to go there,
Yeah, why not?
All right. For me, this is a little bit, I don't know if it feels easier because I have kids. So we're like singing all the time because everything they do is singing, but I think literally it was this morning. I like almost every morning I like wake up and I like sing some sort of a song because it just feels like it gets me connected and grounded and helps my kids get grounded and connected. So, that's an easier one for me.
Do you like make things up, or do you have like some go-to?
My husband is really good at that, like making up things, and he has like different words for like his favorite one right now is. Do you remember the tiki room at Disneyland?
Yes.
Like the tiki room. He has like this new, like all these words that have to do with all 4 of our kids' names, and like it's really So that's the most recent family adapted song.
We'll tell him to get ready. He's going to have to add on some new lyrics.
Watch out, because I was thinking that very thing. I was like, I don't know how the new name is going to fit in there. I'm going to have to come up with a new song. Oh, that's really funny. Cool. Well, we are going to dive into just sharing about what your strength journey has been like. And, in these interviews, we've been trying to paint a picture of the impact that the strengths perspective has had in our life. Not just like, hey, these things are cool about me. And yeah, that is the way I work, but rather, okay, now that I know that this is the way that I work, what impact, what change, what difference has it made in my life? And so before we gonna jump in, why don't you just, for those of us out there who have understand the Strengths Finder language, why don't you share your top 5 themes with us?
Okay, I have individualization. You've probably already heard a bunch of them coming through.
Yeah, I can. I already knew. I was like, and that.
Individualization, relator, activator, futuristic, and empathy.
Yeah. Oh, that empathy one, for some reason, it just like gets me every time when you say that at the end. I'm like, yeah.
It's just always there. Like, sometimes too much, you take things on that maybe you shouldn't take on. But I mean, I was just catching up on my DVR and watched the finale of The Voice, and I was like, oh, right? This person's life is going to change forever. I'm so happy for them. So
I love it. I've certainly felt it and experienced it. Okay, so when you first came across the strengths concept, and I know we're going to kind of chat about a few different things today. What problems were you looking to solve or encountering? Kind of what were you thinking about most in your life at that point when you first came across the strengths concept?
I was mostly thinking about my business.
Okay.
So that's one thing. I completely underestimated the transformation I would personally have. I was really thinking about my business and thinking about it as a product,
a tool
that I could offer my clients. And I talked to Jamie Libro, which we both know and love.
Yep.
And talked to her about just, hey, it's an expensive certification. What are the guarantees that I'll even get my money back, my ROI, and, what's included. And I had a lot of questions for her. And at the very beginning of starting my business, I was like, I actually put it on hold. I was like, I don't think I'm ready to invest that kind of money. And then that's the amazing salesperson that she is, follows up with me a year later, emails me, we get on a call, she's telling me about updates and changes. And at that point I was ready. And one of the problems that I don't know if I want to call it a problem, but I guess one of the solutions I was looking for was that like, I just have this like natural obsession with millennials. I'm an Xer and I love millennials. Like if someone tries to bash a millennial, like look out.
Yeah, watch out. You're for real about that. Yeah.
Them. I think that they can add so much value. I know they already have. But I was, one of their criticisms is that they always want praise, right? They get the participation trophies. And I was like, well, let's harness that. Let's do strengths-based development. Let's give them all the validation that's psychologically validated. And let's help them use a tool that can give them a new language to be able to advocate for themselves in a really productively assertive way, right? Not in a whiny, begging for a promotion because I did one good thing in 3 months kind of way that it's the stereotype of that generation. But I was like, we need a tool to help them use their natural way of being in the most productive way. And I thought strengths was the perfect tool for that. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I dove into that journey in 2015.
Okay.
So that's what I was looking to solve, was just looking for this tool that would help this group of people who are now the masses. And how can I help them be happy and successful and thrive, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, okay, so you're looking for this tool, but then something happens because in the process of learning about this tool that you're going to use to help those millennials, what happens to you?
Exactly. So what I learned very quickly in that experience was that to be able to teach strengths, you have to be in it. Like you've got to be immersed in it yourself. You need to be it. You need to experience it. Just like when I'm asked by companies to say, hey, can you come and teach coaching skills? Like the first thing I say to these groups of managers is to say, like, the best way to know how to be a coach, to be a manager coach, is to know what it's like to be coached. Like to be a coachee, that is a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. Coach, like you've got to be ready to like answer the questions and do the deep thinking and be willing to take action. And so I think it was the same thing with strengths, right? To be a strengths coach, like I need to know what it's like to be in my strengths, to live in the strength zone, to know when I'm in it, when I'm not in it, to know how do I use it to advocate for myself. Right. And so I just got this, all of us, right? Like all the claiming and all the way back to childhood and all the stories and all the like, oh my God, yeah, I totally did use my strengths in those situations. And all that validation and just, it was, the deeper I go, I said last year in a class, and I think it was in one of the classes after the summit, I was like, the deeper I go, the more overwhelming it becomes to know that I have these powers in me to help myself and to help others. And there's a responsibility there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you now have you are armed with knowledge that these are going to be your sharp, in my world, like at your sharpest points. And so there's a responsibility, like you say, a responsibility. There's a weight that you carry with it, a little bit of like, okay, so now what I'm going to do with these things in my life. And so before you got to that point, was that your first kind of entree into the strengths world and positive psychology and all that, or had you been thinking about this type of thing previously?
No, when I worked at Coach, we did try to bring in strengths into smaller groups, because it definitely was not the way the organization did performance management. As we know, most companies small. And so we would work with like different high potential groups and make it kind of like a book club project and get together and do some activities around it. And so there was probably 8 years apart where I first took strengths and then got certified. Okay. But it was always something that I just loved. Yeah. And was super drawn to. And the organization that I was working in just wasn't ready to take something like that on. And then when I stepped out to start my own business, to start Leadology, I realized I'm like, well, I'm not bound by the needs of that organization anymore. I'm going to get certified in this and I'm going to take it out into the world because this is the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're start to dive into it. You're experiencing the depth of like, wow, these are the things that I have used. These are now things that I can kind of dial in to use on purpose in my life. So what did you experience? Like what can you maybe just give us an example of something that's happened in your life where you've said, yeah, this is the power of understanding these things about myself really came alive.
Yeah. So a year ago, and it's just over a year,
Wow.
I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And I'm good. I'm fine now. So I'll cut the suspense. I'm good now. I'm good as new. And I actually just had my second follow-up. And so
wow.
Cancer free. And, but heading into it, it started early last year, and I was having some just really low grade symptoms, GI symptoms. Like I was going to a GI doctor, and, she did all the standard tests, and I was having like bad reflux and GERD and like too much inflammation, but she wanted to prescribe some medication.
Yeah.
And I went home, and looking ahead, as I do, I started doing some research. What's the impact of long-term use of this medication? What are other ways to, combat these symptoms that I'm having? What else could it be? Doing just some of my own research. And I went back to her and I said, look, this medication with long-term use can significantly reduce bone mass. And I'm at risk for that anyway. And I don't want to do that. So what else can we do? Are there natural ways? Are there foods I should avoid? Like, what else can we explore? Like I needed her to be curious with me. And right away, and you'll appreciate this, especially to have an MD say this to me. She's like, I've weaned people off of those like aggressive drugs with peppermint oil. Yeah. I was like, wait, like, you're not, some
wait, I know. What? Are you sure you're not some Eastern medicine person?
That, that goes along with my obsession with millennials, because I think it's because she was a younger doctor.
She was more open. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was more open. And so anyway, so we started to explore. She's like, okay, so I'm going to give you this regimen. We'll try it out. I want you to come back. If you're still symptomatic, we'll figure something else out. So I was so grateful that she was willing to work with me. Yeah. A couple months passed by and I felt fine, but I didn't feel 100%. And, I was going to skip that follow-up appointment, but I was like, you know what, let me go, because I don't feel 100%, and let's see what it is. Yeah. And so I did go, and I said to her, like, I've given up gluten. I've been taking the peppermint oil. I feel okay, but not great. Are you willing to still explore with me? And she said yes. And she said, I have a few other theories. Are you willing to go for a few more tests? And I said yes, of course. And so one of them was an ultrasound of my abdomen, and I've never been pregnant, so I've never had that. Yeah. And so I got a call 45 minutes later before I got back to my apartment, and she said, okay, everything we were looking for looks fine, but we found a tumor on your kidney. So it was completely unrelated. It was an incidental find. Wow. I had 0 symptoms for kidney cancer. And
so none of the GI stuff that you were experiencing had anything to do with
nothing. And so, when I was going through the GI stuff too, she told me I had celiac. So just to give you some insight into my priorities in life, when she told me I had celiac, I cried. Yeah. I had cancer. I was like, what do we do?
Like, don't take bagels, please.
So bagels are gone from my life, and now I have cancer. So yeah, I mean, it was, I felt when I think about it too long, I definitely get a little overwhelmed, but I think for so long, we talk about strengths being a language for people to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think about my activator, my futuristic, And usually paired together, I often talk about how mischievous those two can be. Just about my pace and skipping steps and that word impatience that was in the definition for so long. I suddenly had this appreciation for my impatience. I had that appreciation for my ability to influence, to go back to that doctor, to do my own research, to say, hey, look, I need you to also be curious about this with me, because I know that your rule book, your playbook says to prescribe this medicine for this symptom, but I need a one size fits one approach, not a one size fits all approach. And the fact that I was able to use my voice and my talents to be able to advocate for myself and my own health. I mean, whether you have activator or not, I think everyone should be impatient about their own health. I mean, our companies aren't going to do it for us. The healthcare system's not set up to do it for us. Our government, how I feel about things today. They're not going to do it for us. And we have access to information. And so, I was proud of myself that I just asked the questions, and luckily had a doctor who was willing to go there with me, and that we found it. And so I had my surgery. It was a stage 1 clear cell carcinoma tumor. They were able to remove it from my kidney, so I still have 2 working healthy kidneys. I'm very, very lucky. I had an amazing support system for both my friends, my family, my coworkers, patient clients. So, it was the best case scenario of a terrible situation. And I'm very lucky that it was a pretty low drama, version of a cancer journey.
Yeah. Wow. That's just, that's a really powerful story, and a really, just kind of, I think it's hitting me how the way that you're wired, and maybe even because that you're wired that way, right? Like there's some of it it's like, well, whether we know it's our strength or not, we're just going to act like that. But there's some part of it where you bring awareness to it. Like you said, there's this responsibility, there's a little bit of a weight, but now you also have this tool, this process that in your most high stress moments, you can say, okay, I know I'm good at starting right away. I know I'm good at thinking about what's going to happen in the future. So I should probably just go do those things. Right. What I'm curious about is, as you were applying your strengths to this really personal life journey aspect of your story, when did you cry? Because you've talked about I'm doing it. I'm thinking about the future. I'm getting my, doctor to do this with me, but there's an emotional element. And we talked about empathy, like you're a sponge. So you're taking it in, and how did you let it out? What did that look like?
I mean, that's my empathy too, because I was so thoughtful about who I was going to tell and how I was going to tell them, because I was worried about them and how they would react. Well, the first person I told was my boyfriend. And so I let it out there. But I waited a week because there were a whole bunch of tests that I needed to go through to confirm all this. And I waited about a week before I could tell, because I can't stand having to tell the story multiple times. So I'm like, let me get out there, gather all I'm going to tell one person, because I need to lean on someone. I'm going to tell this one important person in my life. And also the other reason why I waited to get all the tests and have all the information to tell people at once is that my entire family works in the healthcare system. My mom used to do mammograms before she retired. My brother's an ER. My sister's a labor and delivery nurse, and my other sister works at an emergency vet hospital. So they all understand the language of the medical system way more than I do. And so I knew that they were going to ask me questions that I didn't have the answers to, or that I didn't even understand the language. Yeah. And I knew I was going to get overwhelmed. So I had to protect myself too. But I remember having to call my mom, and this might get me a little choked up, but so I called my mom to tell her. And I was like, hey, Mom, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm at the casino. Some cousins are in town. Decided to get together for lunch.
I mean, no better place.
We're usually texting. I don't always call her. And so she's like, what's going on, sweetie? And so I had to kind of like swallow my tears a little bit. And I was like, you know what? Call me later. She's like, all right, what's going on? I was like, I can't lie either. So I was like, I just wanted to get a date on the calendar for you to come visit. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll call you later. And so, I couldn't tell her then because I was thinking too much about her being out with family and trying to have fun. She's at the casino. I mean, I'm sure people do cry in casinos, but I didn't want her.
Not for that reason.
Yeah, I didn't want her to. I just didn't want her. I didn't want to ruin her day. And so, so the next day I called her back and I told her about it. And it was really hard. And then that was what I was so worried about. I didn't want. It shouldn't be that way, right? Like I'm an adult, right? And so now I'm old enough and independent enough where I can be taking care of my mom where, but I knew that I hung up the phone and it was just like, I'm going to, we'll get you here as soon as things get booked. And I got a text from my sister, my youngest sister. And she said, she's like, Mom's not handling it very well. And so I felt bad. But luckily my brother was there to talk her through it, and explain it to her about like the process and what happens. And, it was really hard, and even like some of my friends, my best friend, I have my same best friend since fifth grade. We even have the same birthday. So that's like,
oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Like extra levels of relator, right?
Totally.
And we're from Cleveland, and we went to the Cavs game. The Cavs were playing the Knicks, and we both have a crush on the same guy, Kevin Love. I mean, who doesn't know him? And we were at the Cavs game together, again, having fun. I couldn't tell her we were a person. I couldn't tell her that I had this tumor, but we talked on the phone the next day, and I told her then. So, it's just, so yeah, that's when I cried. I cried when I had to tell people.
Yeah.
And then the night before my surgery, my brother told my oldest nephew and niece. And then I got text messages from them. And I I'm supposed to be the cool aunt. That I'm supposed to be the one who, who's like full of life. And I don't want them to ever have to worry. I want to, be there for all the fun things. I want to embarrass them at their weddings. I want to, be the playful one. And so I don't want them to worry. And so those were the moments, those relationships. And, it was just, the whole thing was really overwhelming. The amount of people that, came to visit me in the hospital or that came that week after. And I don't know. It was turning the tables for sure, right? Like you like to take care of others. I mean, you totally understand that as a mom. And so, it was really, I just feel really grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're talking, especially sharing that experience of like, I think everyone would think, of course, this is your time to be in need, right? But the way that you're wired through your strengths was like, yeah, but I don't want to put that on you because I can be in your shoes easily and see how you're going to feel when I tell you, I'm your daughter, like when your daughter tell you, my mom, I'm supposed to be taking care of you, I just think that's not the common, that's not what everybody does. That's not what everybody thinks. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people who, when they experience something that's life altering, all of a sudden it's like, look at me, help me, and I think rightly so. But it sounds also like our strengths, as like we give, and then so most oftentimes we love to receive in that same way, right? Like a relator, it's like I give the one-on-ones, but I also need you to give it back. Or an includer, it's like I want to include, but I also want to be included. How did that empathy aspect play out for you? Because you're talking about like I was feeling this for them. How did it feel when you kind of then got to have them feel for you? I mean, and I hear it in your voice and I see it in your eyes. Like when those kids text you, like that's speaking to the heart of who you are.
Yeah. I think one thing I did learn through that was that, and I'm still learning, I think it wasn't just that one thing, but I'm still learning in a very ongoing way. I am fiercely independent. I mean, I am fiercely independent. And I think it's not easy to be vulnerable, right? We know that. I'm obsessed with Brené Brown's work, and like it's not easy, and we oftentimes mask vulnerability. And I learned that, I don't think I've let people be there for me the way they want to be there for me. I think even I remember my first follow-up appointment with both my boyfriend and my best friend were like, oh, do you want me to be there? Do you want me to be there? Just let me know. Okay, let me know when the appointment is. Let me know. I was like, no, it's fine. Like, you don't have to be there. Like, it's like a lot of waiting, and, you have to go, and there's like all the things you have to do the blood work and the scans and the x-rays, and then you got to go wait, and then it's like, and so I was like, no, it's fine. And John was like, okay, I'm on my way. I'm getting on the train. Like, he just flopped ass.
He's like, just tell me when the freaking appointment is, okay?
Like, okay, I'll be right there. And so I was just like, you know what, Carrie, you're such a jerk. Like, people, and it's not nice to say about yourself, but I'm just like, people want to be, right? They want to be there. They want to hear what you're going through. And I learned that, and people asking like, what can I do? What do you need? And I'm like, nothing, I'm fine. And I think that was something that I learned. Was just to like let people be there, and let that in, and show that you need that, right? And I think sometimes, even in some cases, my empathy was dialed up too high, that I wanted to like, protect them, and how is this thing that I'm going through going to make them feel? But just letting people be there for me, I think was a big lesson.
Yeah, that's really huge. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So just if you were going to say kind of overarching, what's different about you in your life now that you know your strengths, you've been walking in them really significantly, you've had this really powerful experience over the past year where, like you said, you kind of have more time to think when you're recovering from something so major. What do you think is different about you in your life now that you've walked in your strengths significantly?
I think it requires work. I think I don't take for granted the work that it has taken to deliberately go out there and gather the self-awareness, and then something isn't enough. It's like, okay, now that I know this, I need to use it. And so, I do think that that's the most powerful thing about strengths, is that it gives people the language to be able to advocate for themselves. And the more we give voice to our own strengths, we can be deliberate and intentional. And so I know now that when I'm up against any stressful situations, like what it has done for my own resilience and my ability to bounce back from things like cancer, from just like, having my morning throw off.
Right. Exactly. My coffee maker broke and I don't know what to do.
Totally. And it's like, wait a minute, pause, think. Like, I've got tools. I know what I need to do, and it's just knowing that I have those strengths as this like reset button all the time. But you have to do the work, right? You have to do the work. You've got to think about it.
You got to train your mind to go there, right? Because it's so easy. Like when something annoying or stupid happens, it's just kind of like, like roll out of control. But instead, like you said, a reset button. I really like that. Like, just, okay, whoa, pause, reset, think about what I have. These are the things I can use to make a different outcome than where I was going to go.
Exactly. And it's just like you feel yourself like getting triggered, right? The fight, flight, freeze, the stress, those things happening. And so I think when we pay attention to those voices in our head and some of those actions, I think that's why when we talk about, naming and claiming and aiming, it's like that stuff is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Not just like a fun thing to do in a workshop. It's like, it's really powerful I remember when it hit me, I was like, oh my God, I use my strengths to save my own life.
Yeah. Wow.
I use that activator, that thing that is like impatient. Oh, haha. It's really kind of like a sense of urgency and getting things started and getting other people started. But I used that to influence my doctor to help me figure out what was really wrong. And I think, oh my God, and that futuristic that sometimes drives people crazy and keeps you from living in the moment sometimes, or appreciating what I have today, really served me well, served me perfectly. And so I think just being grateful for that and feeling connected to my own tools and how my strengths helps me advocate for myself. I know that I'm even more confident when I can say that to, clients for work or for
Yeah. You're like, look, I've just lived it. I just realized that because of the way that I'm wired, I influenced my doctor to do something that she wasn't going to do. I mean, just think if you would have just gone on that medicine, maybe, taking away your things, you're like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. No ultrasound. I mean, connectedness for me is like, whoa, I can see the other side, like how this could have gone, like just, that is really powerful. Yeah. I mean, I got the chills when you said my strength saved my life. And I don't think that's being melodramatic. I mean, I really understand that to be true for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know it's taken me this long to be able to talk about it too. So thank you for giving me the space to do that. Because I do think it's a powerful story. I think it's one that when I'm ready, I can bring to my audience, in a way that I think can serve them.
Yeah.
But thank you for letting me do it here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thanks for opening up, and your coach would be proud. Oh man. Well, is there anything, encouragement or advice that you would just leave everyone with today, just kind of on your own personal experience? What can you say with someone who can kind of resonate with what you've been talking about today?
I think it's just do the work, like really appreciate those things that are right about you. And I know that we talk about that all the time, but just know that you've got those tools inside of you. Pay attention to them, savor them. Like, just think about wow, yeah, I did get over that tough thing. But wait, how did I do it? It takes not more than a minute.
Yeah.
At the very least, to make it that daily habit, and just, pay attention to how you're using those things that are naturally in you, so that when you do hit a roadblock or some kind of challenge, you can pull all that stuff forward with you, to be your power.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you haven't done the work when the challenge comes, you're not going to be ready. Right.
Yeah. There's this phrase that I learned that I like to share in this. It's kind of a mindfulness phrase, but it's practice noticing. Like practice noticing, practice noticing yourself, right? How are you feeling? What is your energy feeling like? How are you reacting or responding to something? But also practice noticing in others. Really, it's a real practice in mindfulness and presence, I think. But it's a little bit of a mantra. Practice noticing.
Practice noticing, so that when then the challenge comes, you're ready, because you've noticed all along the way what you're wired for and what it would take to get past this very significant challenge. So, oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, Carrie, so much for bringing your whole self today, for bringing your real story, and how understanding and knowing the strengths perspective and your strengths in particular have truly impacted your life in a significant way beyond all the things that we talk about in our work and in our businesses and the ROI and all these things. But when it comes down to it, it's like, man, life, right? Life matters. And so, you've just shared some of the most important parts for us. So thank you for sharing that journey with us. And hopefully there'll be another time for us to connect.
Yes, definitely. I can't wait to give you a big squeeze when I see you in Omaha.
Yes.
Gosh, it's like right around the corner.
I know. Very soon. All right. Bye, Carrie.
Thanks, Becky.
Doesn't Carrie's story provide so much hope for what's possible when we understand ourselves and truly advocate for ourselves? I can't tell you how many times I got the chills as she spoke and she shared her journey just straight from her heart. You can get to know more about Carrie over on LinkedIn or at her company page at getleadology.com. You can also catch up with the Hive Collective that she's a part of in New York City by following at Hive Collective NYC on Instagram. And we'll put those links over in the show notes on the blog post as well. And just like Carrie, you can be a part of creating thriving lives, families, and workplaces across the entire world. Because when you orient your mind towards what's strong about you and about the people around you, great things happen. And hey, also, could you help spread the message? If you believe in the strengths perspective or part of you was impacted by this interview today, would you head over to iTunes and leave a rating? That's the thing with the little stars. And if you're feeling inspired, a short review there would be so helpful too. So thanks so much in advance for that. I'm glad that you were here today to hear how others have fueled significant changes in their lives by focusing in on their strengths. And I hope that you join me for more next time on Isogo TV.